Hello everyone, my name's Javi, and this is Route Recon. So I've been thinking, I've been doing overlanding for the past few years since I purchased my vehicle in 2021. And I've been doing a lot of camping trips before I started my YouTube channel. And I felt that by doing this, not only am I giving other people a sense of being out there and enjoying the outdoors and nature. There's some people that can't make it out there, and those that can, they go out there and they express themselves and have a good time out in the field. I call it the field because that's, being in the Marine Corps, that's what we said, we go out to the field. So I served 8 years in the Marine Corps in a reconnaissance community. I was with 4th Recon, 3rd Recon, and 1st Recon. And every time we go on patrols, we had a bunch of reports that we had to do. And amongst those reports was Route Recons. So I got into thinking, every time I go out on these camping trips, these overlanding trips, I'm usually spending the night and I'm sharing with you guys the trail, getting to the campsite, being at the campsite, and chatting with the guys, whoever's with me, or if I'm solo, cooking and other stuff like that. And I decided that, why not do some Route Recons, some day trips. And the reason I decided to do this was because in my last video, I had an 82nd Airborne vet from Afghanistan, Gary, and I had asked him if he wanted to do, a trip this weekend. Well, he couldn't because he had to work. He's an electrician for a data center, so he had to actually work that day, Saturday, and was like, let's do a trip on Sunday. It was just a day trip, and it got me thinking. A day trip is like, just go out there, go on the trail, hit the trail, explore, come back, and you're done. That's why I got thinking, that's kind of like a Route Recon. So what I'm going to start doing on top of my other videos is I'm going to start implementing these Route Recons, and you'll see it on the channel, just the name of the trails. So in doing so, I started thinking about how can I produce more trips and do more stuff. And I get a text message from one of my best friends, Ray Bennett, who's also a Marine and president and co-founder of Diving Devil Dogs, which I'm the vice president and co-founder. And he reached out to me and decided, hey, I'd like to go out and do a trail. We had done this one trail, Senator Highway, and at the time that we did it, I didn't have a very good suspension, nor did I have good wheels, and he just had a bone stock Jeep Rubicon with these crappy wheels. And since then, he's gotten better tires, and I've got a better suspension and better tires. And I said, what the heck? And it all came together. So now here I am going through this Yarnell Hills up by where the Yarnell Granite Mountain hotshots, lost their lives. And I just thought I'd share with you guys what my goals in the future with this channel is going to be. So with that, I'm going to be doing a couple of things. I'm going to continue doing my videos where I go out with people or solo, camping, spend the night. And now I'm gonna incorporate my Route Recons, which will be just single day trips, maybe map out an area that I may come back later and figure out, these would be some good camping spots, and just plot it out and do a route recon so I can share with you guys. So that way you can, if you decide you want to do these trails, you'll at least have a insight as to how difficult or how easy the trail is. I use multiple apps to plan my routes. My go-to app that I go and use is Trails Off Road, because what I like about them is they kind of do route recon in a sense, because they have videos, they have waypoints, they have a bunch of stuff like that. I'm not sponsored by any of them. I use a bunch of different apps, not only Trails Off Road, but I use Onyx, I use Gaia, and I also have a Garmin Overland GPS.
Say a command.
Which you just heard it say a command because it hears its name and it wants to wake up, which is kind of funny. But that's what I do. And when I come out here, I'm not sure if it's going to be open, not sure what's going to happen. So I go ahead and do my route recon, and then I can share this with you guys. So I hope you guys are going to enjoy this video. I know it's kind of long-winded, but I just wanted to share with you guys my thoughts as to what I want to do moving forward with these route recons. And I hope you enjoy this trail that I'm about to hit with my buddy Ray. And once again, please subscribe, hit the like button, it'll help me out. Still trying to reach 100. I'm at 35 subscribers, but hey, it doesn't matter how many subscribers I get. What matters is that I'm going out there, I'm relaxing, I'm having a good time, and I'm able to share these videos with you guys. With that, we're gonna hit the trail.
For about 9.
Well, there you have it. Picked up Ray. He packed his family in his truck or his Jeep. We're heading over to the farmer's market out in Prescott Valley. Pick up some goods. And then we're gonna head on over to start our route recon. Looks like we're gonna be hitting Center Highway. Then we're gonna hit Wagner Road. And from there, we're gonna cruise to, either he's gonna come home and I'm probably gonna take off from there, but that's probably gonna be our point where we depart. But we've got Ray leading right now, and we're gonna be hitting this trail here shortly. But first, farmer's market. Well, there you have it. That was a long trail. I kind of forgot how long that trail was because when myself and Ray did it, we did a couple years ago, and we came from Wagner Road to the Senator Highway, and we came up south of the Senator Highway. This time we decided to go from Prescott.
Yeah, this whole section here was all wiped out.
Nice. Take 2. So there you have it. Center Highway and Wagner Road Route Recon done. It was a lot more challenging than I remembered for some reason. There was a lot of vehicles out there. Got some drone footage. The route was great. This is the first time we actually did it coming from the north side. We last time did it from the south side, and the last time I did it, I was pretty much with a stock vehicle. Now I have a suspension and bigger wheels and other things on my vehicle that made it a hell of a lot easier, but yet for some reason it seemed a lot more challenging. But there you have it. Senator Highway coming from the north side, and then coming from the north side of Wagner Road. This is Leaders Recon. It's your first Route Recon. Did it with my buddy Ray Bennett and his family. Shout out to baby Luna, Aurora, and Elena. Thank you for coming with me on this trail. Really appreciate it. On to the next one. That'll be tomorrow. There you have it. Hope to see you again. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Leaders Recon out.